of. And I think that what I'm seeing here is the dichotomy between focusing in activism as if they two different things, right? And for me, they definitely are not. Like even in how we talking about it, and Clara, I appreciate what you said, and I'm gonna take it a little bit deeper or further away when you're saying how we are even engaging in the description of focusing. It's with all this beautiful language. And when we're talking about activism, that's an undertone that I am sensing into. I don't know if it's true, that it sounds like it's something not to be done, it's forbidding, it's, it's this fiery thing. You're going to set people on fire, you're going to walk down the street. And that's not all that there is, right? I'll share this with you. Where I work, when I first started there, there was one young person who wanted a pair of pink sneakers. Years ago. A young person who identified as member of the LGBTIQ community. And the staff was up in arms. Pink, no way, we're not. And the person that was working with this young person, talk about activism, had to really fight just to get people to be comfortable with allowing this young person. This is an inpatient psychiatric unit. And some of the kids at the time used to stay there for a year, 2 years. To allow this young person to get and buy a pair of pink sneakers. To me, in that moment, that was very radical, super radical, right? And now we are just at a place where young people may want to use a name that has nothing to do with their gender orientation. And I still today hear people say, oh, do they want to be called elephant? Do they want to be called this? And that's also activism. To respect and honor a person's individualistic desire to be called whatever, right? And I know that for me, it's just honoring that. Like if a young person says to me, I want to call Jane. That's the name I really like. I just call them Jane. And that's a form of activism and revolutionary where I'm at. Because it's so revolutionary that the actual system that we use, there's no space for us to choose a name, the chosen name. Something as simple as that, the computer does not allow you to do that. And so I cross it out and write it in. And I know for me, I know in 2020, I'll share this piece with me. I live in the Rockaways, and anyone that knows anything about New York City knows a little bit about the Rockaway that is quite divided. It is very divided. And in 2020, when all the protests were going on, the surfers from this community had a swim out. And I am thinking about that. And it brings joy to my heart. Because maybe they weren't going to go and, protest on Fifth Avenue, but a swim out in this community was powerful. We have more power than people walking down the street in this community, which brings me back to what we're talking about. The community will call forward in a focusing way what it needs, right? I ride my bike, I have picture with a sign. Remember that? Just with a sign. And every day I'll change the sign. That's what I was doing. In this community, that was allowed, right? And so each one of us individually have to, in a focusing way, find how do I come from the individual I to the collective us? Because I think that that's the bottom line of us here. And I have to say, there's something about all of us here that says to me, we want things to change. And how we're bringing about that change, it's individual. It may not be in the large scale, but the fact that we're sitting here and listening to each other and no one leaves, and we have many differences here, right? And yet we come and we honor who we are and what we bring forward. And to me, that's a form of activism as well. Marvin, thank you for igniting the fire in this conversation.
Thank you.
And for me, it's not a fire that's going to burn anything down. It's actually a fire that will keep us warm.